Hi guys, so these are what's known as combined rate problems. So where you have typically two people trying to accomplish some task and you're given how long each of them can do it alone, and then you're asked how long they would do it working together. And there's combinations of that where they give you different things and ask you to solve for different things. And so this one, we have two people, Brad and Joe. Brad, one can paint a room in 4 hours and the other can do it in 10 hours. And how long would it take for them to do it together? So let me first just show you kind of a general formula that'll work for all of these. And so, kind of the formula is if you say, let t be the time it takes for them to do it together, and let's just say a time for the first person alone. So if the first person did the task completely alone, so that's his time, and B would be for the second person alone. And so the formula, and this is 1 over T is equal to 1 over A plus 1 over B. And then I'll show you as we go further along exactly how we got. So if you were to guess which of these would be the answer, well, I have the answer on the next slide here. It's 2.9, roughly. And so the way you can kind of get this formula, you can memorize the formula or you can kind of use some common sense. If you think about these two people, the first person, Brad, his rate per hour, if he can do the room in 4 hours, then he can do a fourth of the room in 1 hour. And if Joe can do the whole room in 10 hours, then he could do a tenth of the room in 1 hour. So if you want to think about completing the room, so you think of completing the room as one. And so the whole is the sum of its parts. So it's always a fraction of one in these problems. And that's kind of the key to, so one is going to be, well, Brad's part plus Joe's part. There's Brad plus Joe. And how much of this would Joe, after T time, so T is the time when they've completed it together. So Joe has completed 1/4 times T, because it's kind of like distance is rate times time. You know, the amount, it's not distance here, it's like the total amount that got painted, but it's still rate times time. And Joe's part will be 1/10 times T. And so if you factor that out, you can factor the T out, you're going to get 1 is equal to T times a fourth plus a tenth. So you end up dealing with fractions here. So that is what we have to work for. And then if you just divide both sides by T, what you're going to get is this, which is the formula that we had started out with where at the beginning, where A is 4 and B is 10. And now to get this, there's just a little bit of dancing around with fractions. So what you could do first of all is, why not just find out what 1/4 plus 1/10 is? And again, we want to do all this by hand because that's the way a lot of classes, they want you to do that. So we need a common denominator. What's a common denominator for 4 and 10? Well, I believe it's 20. That'd be the least common multiple of 4 and 10. So what would I have to multiply 4 by to get 20? Well, I'd have to multiply it by 5. And 10, I'd have to multiply it by 2. So then I must do the same thing to the top of those fractions to get what we call equivalent fractions. When I do that, I end up with 20 on the bottom for each. And on the top, 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. I end up with 7 over 20. So 1 over t is equal to 7 over 20. So t is going to be the reciprocal of 1 over t. So t is going to be 20 over 7. And that's my answer. And if you pull out a calculator, you'll find that's 2.85 something. It's about 2.9 hours. So that's how you can do all of these. And these are actually, if you look up harmonic mean, what you're going to find is this is closely related to the harmonic mean of the two numbers 4 and 10. So let's go on to, this is a similar one. And again, I'm going to copy this formula I had at the beginning, which was 1 over t is equal to 1 over a plus 1 over b. So this is a kind of a variant of this problem where they say now you have two people. So now they're digging a hole and they're telling you how long it takes for them to do it together. And they're saying, oh, one person is 3 times as fast as the other. So how long would it take each working alone? So this is kind of a similar thing. If you think about this in terms of like in 1 hour, overall, they both would have completed 1/6 of the hole. And so they're saying Clara can work 3 times as fast as Joanne. So if t is the time it takes Clara to complete the task alone, well, she would have completed 1 over t of the task in 1 hour. So for instance, if it were 10 hours, she would have completed 1/10 of it. But then because Clara is 3 times as fast as Joanne would take 3 times as long. So Joanne would take 3t to complete the task. So it's the same kind of thing. We're just taking, well, this is Clara's portion, and this is Joanne's portion. It's the whole is the sum of its parts. And if you like, we're just plugging it into that formula where A is the time it takes Clara and B is the time it would take Joanne. And now we have an equation and one unknown. So in theory, we should be able to solve this. So there's a number of different ways we can solve this. So what we could do is we could take the t. So there's 1 over t that kind of factors out. So we can say 1 over 6 is equal to 1 plus a third. Well, 1 plus a third is 4/3. It's a t there. So 1 over 6 is 1 over t plus 4/3. And if you like, you can say, all right, I'm going to multiply both sides by t. I'm going to get t over 6 is equal to 4/3. So how would I solve this for t? Well, multiply both sides by 6. And I get t is 4 times 6 divided by 3, which is 8 hours. So that's Clara. So Clara would do it in 8 hours working alone. And how long would Joanne take? Well, Joanne is the slower one. So Joanne would be 3 times 8, which is 24. So Clara's 8 hours and Joanne's 24 hours. And if you look at this, you would find this actually works. If you plug in 1/6, you're going to find that's equal to 1/8 plus 1 over 24. So you can check and see that that works. So you can kind of think of it in terms of the whole as the sum of its parts, or you can simply remember this formula. And let me use a different color there. And that's the formula that we had mentioned at the very beginning. So that's, again, it's like the harmonic mean. It's really, if you were to look at the harmonic mean, I believe it's the harmonic mean divided by 2, something like that. So it's like, oh, well, you're averaging the harmonic means of the two times, and then you're dividing that by 2. So, and that's one typical problem, and you run into this problem on, the SATs and a lot of these qualifying exams and stuff. So hopefully I didn't get too messy there with the writing, but hopefully you found this helpful. And please, if you got something out of the video, if you can like it, subscribe to the channel. That way more people will be able to see these videos, because it's the YouTube algorithm. That's everything is the YouTube algorithm. So thanks. Catch you later.